All right, friends, how are you doing? Let's talk about SoFi here. And, we've seen with this market, the start of the week here, we had huge push, a lot of the leftover news from the Feds. Then Tuesday came, Jerome talked, and he just pretty much sank the whole market. We love him, don't we? So with that, we've seen some highs here, and we've seen now the new lows. And what we're seeing now with SoFi, I think still is very positive. This is still very positive. SoFi push this week all the way to over $30. Okay, that is fantastic. That's honestly, that's amazing. Okay, so we know now people are willing to pay 30 some dollars for SoFi. Now with that, SoFi has fallen back down to this high $27 position. And even if, I honestly, I was looking for SoFi to sell down some more. I was trying to get as cheap as I could here, because there was one of my SoFi accounts where I swung it. When it hit 30, I was like, I'm out with that account. And so I'm looking to get back in with that account, and I might just pull the trigger here and just buy it at this 27. Still massive profit zone right there with that, just to get back in and do that. But here with SoFi, and two, with that, I want you to hear, like, I am in SoFi for the long haul. I think this is going to be institutional stock to hold, just a massive company in the future. I think we're seeing the very beginning footsteps of what is coming here with this company. So with that, this was almost a really, it was a great lesson of how things happen this week. I think it's good to step out of the market right now and look at what just happened here in the progression of it, how things react. So if someone's new in the market, this was a great example of how fast things can change. Last Wednesday, the Feds came out and said, hey, we're going to do 3 rate cuts. We're going to start with this one. We're going to do one at the end of October. We're going to do one at the beginning of December. The market went crazy. And the market went crazy all the way up till Tuesday. So we had Wednesday, the end of Wednesday, we had the end of Wednesday, we had Thursday, Friday, Monday, and then most of Tuesday. The market went freaking nuts. I mean, every day something was hitting a new high. I mean, it was crazy. With that, then Feds come back out. Jerome comes back out, says, hey, he mentions some things. Hey, we may have to reevaluate some things if things get worse. Talking about inflation, all that kind of stuff. Market sinks. It sinks for the rest of the week. So with that, what does that mean? We've really seen how money can flow in and out of this market. And it showed us where our really healthy and attractive, very popular stocks are. And saying that, SoFi is obviously one of those very attractive stocks right now. People are very attached to SoFi right now. They're very, very just, like laser point on SoFi right now, because it's still a very affordable stock. That's why you've seen so much volume go into SoFi here this week. SoFi essentially was being, swung around here these past, high trading days. And even, when the market started to sell off here, it still has done very well when it comes to volume and, with these swings back and forth. But I think I said this Tuesday, Wednesday, as the market was selling off, don't be surprised to see, SoFi still have these massive swings in it, to where it's going to, probably survive up into this 26, 27. And sure enough, it did. But I'll be honest, there was a piece of me where I was like, I would love this to go back to $26, $25. But I don't know. I don't know. And I think there is a real conversation of where, if we go through what we just went through on a larger scale here at the end of October, because as far as we know, we're getting another rate cut. That's what we know. Two, with that will be right when all of our quarterlies will be coming out. SoFi quarterly will be coming out. And two, we could see FOMO enter the market again, where people are just going crazy. SoFi could easily swing back up into a high $30 range, 100%, okay? Just off that quarterly, okay? Now, I think that's very, very possible. And, if SoFi can get into a deep $30 range here by the end of October going into November, that is going to be very telling of what is coming here by Q4 going into December. And if you're wondering why I have a Santa hat on, our wonderful CEO here in $60 by Q4, because I think there is a reality where that is possible. That is possible. But it's really obviously too going to rely on two factors: the rate cuts and how aggressive are these quarterlies going to be with SoFi. I think the quarterlies are going to be pretty aggressive. I'm more concerned about the rate cuts, if the Feds are going to go through with these rate cuts, than I am about SoFi. I feel a lot more confident that SoFi is going to actually achieve great quarterlies, at least be in the $900 million range by Q3, and by Q4, if not a very high $900 million range, almost $1 billion range, they'll be in $1 billion range with revenue. So I think that's possible. But with that, saying that, SoFi could by January, when that Q4 comes out to round out the rest of 2025 here, yeah, there could be a real situation at least by 50s, if not 60. I think that is a very real possibility here too. Man, it's like you can see it. We've already seen it with many stocks this year. I mean, I've talked about Robinhood, but Robinhood is a great example. I think that SoFi can get into a leapfrog situation, and imagine that we have two more rate cuts by the end of the year. By Q4, SoFi is at least, we'll just take the bottom, we'll say it's at least at like $970 million, okay, per quarterly. Okay, then we're going in 2026, and we're going to be coming out with Q1 before we know it. The talks of Jerome Powell leaving, he will be gone in May, and then we're going to get rate cuts probably very soon after that, probably going into the summer. And then on top of that, I do think there's a real conversation in 2026 where SoFi is put in the S&P 500. I think that's a real conversation. And once that happens, that is a whole nother bag of bones another whole, infrastructure of money just being poured into SoFi at that point. So this could get really out of control. This is a situation of like, I know it sounds funny, and there's a lot of people that may think this is too crazy of a conversation, but I think this is a real logistic conversation. I really do. Once SoFi gets into a range of reporting billion-dollar quarterlies plus, and then there's you've got articles coming out talking about how bullish they are on it, and just the whole zeitgeist changes. Once it changes for just the bull case of SoFi, which it already is essentially, but it can get a lot thicker here where it becomes a madhouse. I don't think $60 is that crazy by Q4. I really don't. Especially if this market by the end of October starts to roll up again here. There's going to come greener days here before the end of October. We've still got 3 solid weeks in the market to where there's going to be some, more push up. The investors are going to take the market back here. But it may take to the end of October to see some real defining numbers come out here with, what a lot of these stocks can do here, including SoFi, to where it is relying on that next rate cut and quarterlies coming out. So, yeah, look at Robinhood. Robinhood is now $120. That's crazy. That is insane. Robinhood had a lot of movement towards this last week, essentially from Wednesday until Monday. There was a lot of movement, but there was a lot more push up and a lot more profitability in SoFi than there is Robinhood, because SoFi still it's under $50. It's a lot more of an affordable stock for people to get in and out of. So what does that tell you? It tells you that day traders are involved in it more. It tells you that swing traders are involved in it more. It tells you that there's obviously a long-term community of investors in it, 100%. I'll be honest, I'm swing trading SoFi. I'm long-term holding SoFi. I have one portfolio that's, I've been buying SoFi for years. It's in that portfolio. Then I have another one where I'm just kind of swinging it in and out. So there's many ways to play what's going on right now, and obviously the one that I'm swinging in and out of, that's the one that I am depending on rate cuts to come and go here, along with these huge quarterlies that more than likely will be showing themselves here around Q3 and Q4. I think this is going to be a huge year going into SoFi. This has already been a huge year. You have to understand that. So if you're like, well, you've been saying that, I've been saying that because this is what's been going on here with SoFi. Just look at December of, if you look at December of 2025 here, SoFi was at $16, but it hadn't been there long. Just in October, this time last year, October, SoFi was at $7. By December of 2025, it was around $14, $16. Then, of course, April, we had the crash, the whole DeepSeek, then went immediately into the tariff situation. It shot to $9. And then in this small moment here, from April till now, it is essentially a $30 stock. Imagine what could happen here from now until January of 2026. Oh, man, oh man. I think it can get close. I think 30s, 40s are very possible. 50s are where struggle will come in, and 60s going to be like the cherry on top by January. But imagine this market right now. Imagine this crazy market right now getting 2 more rate cuts, and then 2 more quarterlies out of it with all these big tech stocks, all of our stocks in general. Imagine what that's going to do. This could just be the start of what's coming here. And obviously there's going to be people in here that are highly against a lot of this because they're very bearish on the market. They think this is a bubble, it's going to pop. Maybe. I don't know. But if I had listened to those people months ago, I would have missed out on a lot of things here. I think a lot of us would here. So, friends, I'm excited. I think everyone should be excited. I think SoFi is the investment of a century. Of a lifetime. I get tongue-tied talking about it because I'm so just. It's almost like it's like, is this even allowed? It's so easy to make money here with SoFi. It's crazy. It's such a clear-cut destination. You can see where it's going. So, yeah, be excited. Be very excited to hold SoFi. This is going to be a stock that people are going to hold, 2-3 years from now. And they're going to be like, yeah, I bought SoFi back in 2024, 2025. Life-changing moment for me. That's going to be a real comment that people are going to do. So, friends, I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.